Yo, what's up everyone? Colby Cheese here with yet another video guide on a build that I recently came up with. So, literally just yesterday I showed you guys my take on the Cold Snap caster, which is using the new Ramirez Banquet ring. And the funny thing is, leveling up, I tried Spectral Throw to level with, and then I went to like Freezing Pulse, and for just a little bit I had borrowed a Scion Touch to try out some Firestorm, and I was like, man, this is actually really fun. And you know, I'd also theory crafted some fire builds as well, so I was really having a good time with the Cold Snap build. But I don't know, I guess it just got in my head. I was like, I really want to try out this fire build. No one's really doing Firestorm, and they buffed Firestorm and Fireball and pretty much all the fire stuff. They buffed the straight fire damage, not necessarily the burning damage, which, you know, burning damage is good if you skill it. Doesn't matter. The point is, as you can see, I'm doing Firestorm. I'm essentially General CheeZeVicious, or more like General CheeZeVicious. I'm General CheeZeVicious right now. I've got the raining fireballs, I'm throwing out fire traps, and I've got Molten Shell running. And so this is actually a really freaking awesome build. My clear speed is quite insane, as I'm going through an entire clear of the catacombs in about 2 to 2.5 minutes for each run, getting pretty intense experience. Also, my survivability is really nice. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that I'm doing here. As you see me running through this place, I'll be throwing down multiple instances of traps. So you see a little Shock Nova flying out. I've got multi-trap with Shock Nova, and quality on Shock Nova gives you a really high chance, I think it's like 30% at 20 quality, to shock an enemy. And with Elemental Proliferation and Triple Trap, you can pretty much always triple shock stack an entire group of enemies, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. Throwing down first my traps, and then I throw down a couple of fire traps which have several damage links on them, and while everything is sitting inside my fire traps just burning to death, taking lots of damage from triple shock stack, I have Firestorm raining death down upon my enemies, and it's just overall really insane. I've got a lot of mana regen because I've taken Eldritch Battery with Clarity and Discipline. And then for my armor is actually a little bit low. I don't have like the best gear for armor and stuff right now, because I'm using a Carcass Jack. Not really the most optimal thing for defense on this build, but it gives me a lot of extra area. And I had a 6-link one, just happened to have a 6-link one that I decided to use. So there is that to think about. But I'm actually going to have some other defensive options that I'm going to employ in just a little bit once I find the right item. And I have two different ideas. One is being a Comb's Heart, which is going to be freaking insane for this build. One thing with that is I'm going to have to get rid of my fire traps. I can definitely live with that once I get a little bit higher level. I'm going to have some crit on my Firestorm, and that's going to make it really insane, especially with the 40% extra fire damage that you get from using Comb's Heart, and then the survivability is really insane. The other idea, which I'm probably actually going to do, is to get a 5 or 6 link Cloak of Defiance, which is a it gives you Mind Over Matter as well as an extra 10% damage reduction, so I'll have lots of mana regen coming from my build itself, and then even more coming from the Cloak of Defiance, and then I'm taking way less damage since I'm running Arctic Armor plus the MOM, so I'm ultra tanky, able to just sit there and do all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be standing in the middle of mobs, tanking them with Rain of Fire and Fire Traps and triple shock stacking enemies, and I'm not going to really be taking a lot of damage at all. And when my build is all finished up, I'm going to have around 290% HP, giving me, I'm going to have well over 5,000 health on this build, maybe even close to 6,000 whenever it's all said and done, on top of the MOM and the Arctic Armor. So ultra tank, and my damage is insane with the shock stack. So take a look at the build tree. If you looked at the Cold Snap, the tree is pretty much the same. I'm taking all the health nodes, you know, from the Scion wheel. Got the mana there, the mana regen, the spell damage coming out of the tree, health and mana right coming up the tree. I need both dexterity nodes in order to run the fire traps. Eldritch Battery, of course, coming down into the area nodes, blast radius, fire damage, some more health, and some more health, and then coming on down, even more HP going into the Templar tree as I pick up body and soul, well, not body and soul, the other armor nodes there. More area nodes, cast speed, mana regen, and then as I start to level up a little bit further, I'll grab even more HP. And really late game, I'll start to pick up my crit nodes here. Spell power for the multiplier, a little bit more fire damage, some more crit, and then finally topping off the build with an extra bit of HP for the late game. And that's gonna make it really insane. Now there's actually, this build is awesome because you have a lot more options on how you can build. If you want to do more of a burning damage build, you got the entropy nodes here, as well as the purity of fire. Or Holy Fire, I think it's called. It gives you like tons of burning damage and damage over time, which will be good for your fire traps. If you want to rely more on the damage from your fire traps than your firestorm, you can also do an aura build. You can take extra body and soul, like armor and ES nodes. You can do more aura nodes there, more aura nodes there. Maybe pick up an Alpha's Howl and do kind of a support aura build on top of the damage that you're already doing. So there's really good options for this build if you want to kind of change things up just a slight bit and not do exactly what I'm doing. But honestly, I'm pretty sure I've theory crafted the best build for either solo play or just being the main source of damage in your parties, because you're triple shock stacking. And I calculated right now with only a level 17 Firestorm, I'm doing around like 40,000 DPS. It's insane. 40,000 DPS once targets are triple shock stack, which is always essentially. So Carcass Jack, not the best for the late game defenses, as I said, but the links, as you can see, are going to be really simple. I'm actually going to post them down below, but the links for the build are, you can just see me, I'm mousing over them: Firestorm, Life Leech, Faster Casting, Fire Pin, and Conk Effect. Essentially, when I get a 6th link, I'll be doing Increased Duration. That's going to give it another 100% of duration. It just doubles the duration. So I throw down the shock traps, then I throw down the fire traps, then I start raining down death with the Firestorm. And as you can see, I'm mousing over it calculates it as average damage. And so what you really do is you just multiply that by 2 and stuff. So it's really simple. I don't know if you noticed, I moused over it really quickly, but the actual shocks tracks is coming from trap, multi-trap, and 20% quality on my Shock Nova, as well as the elemental proliferation. The fire trap, once again, I can do a few different things with it, but I'm just kind of doing Conk Effect and increased area of effect because I want to make a huge area. You can like add rarity or elemental proliferation if you want to proliferate the burn that you're getting from fire trap. You can do like increased critical strikes. There's a lot of different things that you can do with fire traps if you'd like. For the auras, like I said, discipline, clarity, you're going to be running Arctic armor, all of that on reduced mana. And finally, on weapon swap, you can. I was gonna use Sapless Frame with just like traps for single target to be kind of tanky, but I ended up not ever using that, so I'll probably have to end up selling that off. I don't really need it. Essentially, just use weapon swap for my Lightning Warp. And let's see what else. Oh yes, I'm doing Enduring Cry with Castle Damage Taken, and then I'm running a Molten Shell, which I actually self-cast on Faster Casting. It's in the same links as the Castle Damage Taken, but since it's higher leveled, I can actually self-cast it, and Castle Damage Taken doesn't trigger that. So that is my setup as it stands right now. Don't actually have any room for curses, which I don't really care. I'm doing so much damage with my triple shock stacks. My plan was just to like group with 1 or 2 people that have curses themselves, and they can put the LA weakness or flammability or whatever. And even if I don't group with some people that have that, I'll still be doing just fine with the amount of damage that I can put out as it is. So if that ever became a problem, I can like get rid of the Molten Shell and throw on an LA weakness or flammability if I really wanted to. It's honestly very flexible at this point. I can have or I have a lot of options with the build. But hopefully you guys will enjoy it. The cool thing about this build is, unlike the Cold Snap version that I showed you guys yesterday, you can actually do this when completely self-found and starting from scratch with no currency to buy expensive items. I do have a Searing Touch, and that makes the build better. I do have a Carcass Jack, which makes the build better right now, but I don't need those things. All I really need is I can do this on a 4-link, but it gets way better with items, which is the case with any other build. It's just not required. You don't have any required uniques to make the build work. It's all just going to scale massively with items, and that's the awesome thing about it. As I said, you know, once I get close to Defiance, that's going to make me ultra tanky, but I can survive without that with just a hybrid armor ES piece or something like that. The main thing that you actually are going to need if you get 5 or 6 links on your Firestorm is a lot of mana regen. And so once you start picking up better gear, you're going to need better gear in turn to sustain that better, you know, linkage and stuff. The final thing that you're going to need for this build is all of the fire transaction effects, you know, fire weapon, fire helm, fire footprints, and a fire pet. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check me out at twitch.tv/KolbyCheese. And by the way, sub hype. That's right, I got sub button today. Peace out, guys.